Hello, guys. Good day. This is Anne of Reinforcement Club, your fellow positive reinforcer. Today, we are going to talk about the top 3 reasons nurses struggle when starting at a new facility. So, this doesn't only refer to the new nurses. It also, has something to do with the senior nurses who is about to start a job, a nursing job in a new hospital facility, especially if it's a new country. Now, basically, you know, I could personally say that nursing has a universal principle in terms of empathy, in terms of soft skills, aseptic technique, and all this. But initially, when you know every place, every institution, especially every country, they have a new protocols and policies that the new nurses has to get to know and adapt into it. So the first struggle of a newbie nurse, in any facility, when you're a nurse starting a new job in a new hospital facility, no matter how good you are, regardless of how many years of experience you have as a nurse, you're at some point you're gonna struggle adapting to a new work environment, especially if it's a new country. So, like in Philippines, people have different ways. Every institutions have different ways how to do certain procedures. Although there are, much similarities, but going to another country, yes, indeed, there's a big difference because some countries like Saudi Arabia, they have enormous facilities. It's complete. It's modern. So you got to learn their way. How their new protocols, policies about certain procedures, and in theater, ICU, emergency room, you got to learn about that basically, and it's part of the orientation. And other than that, since you'll be dealing with the new work environment, you also, as a new nurse, you also got to deal with familiarizing the team dynamics, which means that any new nurse has to build rapport with the new colleagues. They got to know them, understand them, so that the new nurses can able to learn from the senior nurses in the area. So in other words, they got to be good. They got to be good in asking questions, in following instructions, and in the most part, new nurses has to be good in building trust and rapport with the new colleagues so that they can help each other, and at the same time they can be trusted. So yeah. And that's also a new role. So if you are a nurse who used to be in a theater, but you got a new job in a new healthcare facility, or let's just say in a local area, but you're from theater, but you ended up, it's your first time to be exposed and work in the emergency room. So you got to also familiarize the layout of your workplace. And at the same time, you got to deal with the team dynamics and the way of life in your new areas, the facilities, protocols, procedures, the SOP. So, yeah, if you are just hired on the same area like theater, you're gonna be working in theater all the way. Yeah, it's the same thing, but it's much challenging if you're going to get exposed in a new area. Like, I have a colleague, right now who has been from, NICU nurse. She's dealing with babies, and then suddenly she got hired. It's also a new country, which is Ireland, and she got to deal with adults, outpatients. So it's actually like a new world to her. So other than that, she also has to deal with the expectations, the patient's expectations. So it's not only her who had dealt about that. Also us foreign nurses, the rest of us, the rest of the people, even in locals who happen to be new nurses in the area. So aside from adapting with the new work environment, new nurses also has to, study, familiarize, and practice the patient care expectations. The workload. If you are new in the area, so you have much familiarity if you were exposed in the same area, like emergency nurse, and then you're just going to work in another emergency department, which is in another country. It could be Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia or UK. So although you know a lot about emergency situations, but it's a different culture. It's a different population. So different facilities serving a unique population, a new culture at the same time. And well, if you could also compare though, like what I had in Philippines. This is in terms of workloads. It's actually much heavier compared to where I am right now. So we are practicing the standards like 1:5 nurses, and like in the Philippines, it's more than that all the time. And I have also undergone the functional nursing in the Philippines, and then I transitioned into primary nursing in Saudi Arabia and here in Ireland. Functional nursing is when there's only 2 to 3 nurses in the area serving over 15 patients. So one charge nurse, one medication nurse, and then healthcare assistants. One healthcare assistant and a porter or wardman. So that's what we've been practicing in the Philippines. And then I transitioned to Saudi Arabia, and then we did 1:1. So I've experienced practicing at least the standard of 1:5, even this time. So yeah, but sometimes though it could be, yes, indeed, we're practicing the standards, but the patient care could be, demanding. So yes, we did functional nursing in the Philippines, but when I get to Saudi Arabia, yes, indeed, we practice 1:5, but most of the time, majority of the time, we're handling bedridden patients, 2 to 3 bedridden patients out from 1:5. So the workload actually varies, but it's different. And then I transitioned to, from medical surgical to palliative nursing here in Ireland for a couple of months. And then the patient care as well as the workload is different again. I got to deal with that, the patient care expectations, as well as the new work environment. So yeah, it's different. And then I got transferred to outpatient department to where I am this time, and it's another different way. So different workload, demanding shifts and multiple patients. So in other words, there will always be changes. And as a new nurse, new staff in an institution, you got to be adaptive, resilient. And I would highly suggest that it's important to really, build relationships to your colleagues, to your senior nurses, because they are one of the best way for you to really build your confidence in your new role. And part of the patient care expectations, you got to also deal with the pressure to perform. Some people would expect you to perform quickly, demonstrating competence, which kind of stressful at times. They thought about you having loads of clinical experiences, but not all people are the same. Some are actually, they can catch up quickly. Some, they need ample of time to realize, to be effective enough in their new role. So yeah, I've spoke about adapting to a new work environment and patient care expectations. Lastly, this is the the part that you are striving for, to be able for you to build confidence in your new role. That's also a struggle, a challenge. And, as a new nurse in a new facility, new institution, you're regardless of your experiences, whether you're well experienced in the ward as a ward nurse, general nurse, medical, surgical for over a decade. But when you are in a new, you are exposed and you get into a new facility, in some point you're going to doubt your abilities and worry about making mistakes. So you got to deal with the challenges in building confidence to your new role. And that's one of the challenges. And other than that, you worry about making mistakes. You also have to refresh your, clinical expertise in operating some medical equipment. Well, I could say that every area they have their own AAD, they have their own defibrillator, but they actually have different brands. So you have to familiarize yourself about that. New medical equipment, procedures, especially when you are, like, for example, if like when I was in Saudi Arabia, I was in neurosurgery, neurology. So it's a surgical and medical for any brain injury, any brain cases. But after a year, our ward became a partly gastro, pulmo, so another cases. So I got to also from lumbar tap and different equipment for the brain. I also got to familiarize myself to new equipment, which is used by gastro patients. And in some cases, like if you are from ICU, you've been practicing ICU in your whole life, then suddenly you went to Saudi Arabia, and then you are hired as an A&E nurse or an emergency nurse. So you also got to familiarize with the procedures there, the protocols, SOPs in the area. So you got to develop. That's part of the, building confidence in your new role. You got to develop your clinical expertise in the area. Plus, you're doubting yourself that you might make mistakes. So once again, it's important to build a good relationship with your colleagues, especially when you are new. So you got to be a good girl, good boy at that stage. And, when you are new to a place, especially a new country though, you like to talk to people. I've never, the first time I got here in Ireland, I like to talk to my patients. I actually thought about myself like, okay, this time I can finally talk English. So, but it's kind of hard the first time because, building trust and rapport to patients as well as to my colleagues is actually good. But you also got to balance your empathy to other people, to your especially to your patients. Balance your empathy and your productivity. You also have to really effectively finish your work for the entire shift. So, yeah. Although, adapting to a new work environment, working on that patient care expectations and building confidence in a new role could be challenging for new nurses. But, orientation program really does help. That's why, you got to listen to the orientation program, orientation phase when you are new in the area, or especially if that's a new country. Some hospital institutions are also really extremely strict with patient records. So you also have to know it carefully. That some institutions are quite really vigilant about privacy. And, after orientation, new nurses are going to have mentors. So, yeah, that's part of the adapting to new work environment, that you have to really build trust and rapport to your mentor. I have also experienced before that, we didn't get along with my mentor because I am new in the place. I was new in the place. I was new in that culture, and we didn't get along. And thank God, yes, my mentor was replaced. She was younger than me, and it's not her fault. It was mine because I don't know. I was actually majority of my life. It was in medical surgical. Then I went into palliative nursing, wherein it's a different style, different expectations of patient care, and I hardly get it. To the point that, yeah, they finally replaced my mentor, and then it took me time to really catch up. So other than the fact that I am slow, or I could be slow, regardless of my experiences, which is over 10 years, I'm still slow. And it's going to take time for me to really catch up to. So, you know, although I am slow, I do believe that, relationship with your colleagues, patients, and your, patients assigned to your team, people, relationship to people around does matter. I mean, does really help. And I do value that. I do value relationships in the first place. And I would invest in relationship. I would work hard on that. And, building relationships with my colleagues as well as patients and the people around in the new hospital institution, I do believe that actually helped me lessen the challenges that I have experienced in new healthcare facilities, as well as the stress journey, the challenges in the area. When you have good relationship with your colleagues, I can say that nothing is impossible, and you're gonna share together the stress. Everything will be shared, and in the most part, you're gonna learn how to really, the policies, work environment, patient care expectations. Your colleagues, your team will help you out with this. That's why relationship is vital when you are a new nurse, building good relationships to people around. So, yeah, that's also part of mentorship, relationship, and your relationship to your senior nurses in the area. So I hope I was able to give you some points of view for the new nurses in the area who's applying, who's about to get hired, or who got hired in the hospital institutions. So it's actually challenging initially, but time will pass. Otherwise, I could summarize it all. It's all about relationships and improving yourself. That's how I personally get on. That's how I survive every area that I've been. Like NICU, delivery room, general ward, neurosurgery, palliative care. It's about relationship and self improvement. How you're gonna carry yourself, and how you build relationship with the people around, and growing yourself, learning and learning nonstop. So it's not only actually in nursing. It's still going to be challenging even in other jobs when you're a newly hired person. Even starting a new business is still hard. And the only way to really get to master that area, is to get through it. Face it, build relationship, and improve all that over time. And it's just a matter of time that you're just gonna be another senior nurse in the area. So I hope I've shared a good point of view for the new nurses. And if you ever love this episode today, you can share this to your family and friends. You can follow me in YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, even in Amazon Music. Reinforce Me Club, by the way, this is Anne of your fellow positive reinforcer. I do appreciate your time, and have a lovely day ahead. Thank you so much.